This is Jacksonville, bold new city of the South, a sleeping giant no longer. The former blue-collar town has turned in her trademark to become a professional city on the St. Johns. This is a vast city that covers over 800 square miles, a city that is called home by over 700,000 people, a city rich in ethnic diversity. Geographically, Jacksonville is not only the largest city in Florida, it is one of the biggest cities in the world, with an ever-changing skyline, burgeoning suburbs, and new residents each day. Jacksonville has come a long way from the sleepy little town at the bend of the river over a century and a half ago. Jacksonville residents have faced many challenges over the years. Citizens have worked together to fight major epidemics, a devastating fire, a dwindling economy, school disaccreditation, pollution, corruption in government. But with each new crisis, the spirit of the people arose to face the challenge and search for solutions. What is the framework that holds this progressive community together? Who are these shareholders in Jacksonville's future? Let's take a closer look. In the mid-60s, citizens of Jacksonville and Duval County voted for change. Two separate governments, one for the city and one for the county, were abolished. In a 2-to-1 victory, residents voted to erase their boundaries and to consolidate their services. The city and county governments merged into one. Today, the city of Jacksonville is recognized throughout the country as a model system of government. Mayor Hazouri explains.
It is an efficient, effective way to deliver services. Consolidation obviously means that we've consolidated a number of other entities into one unique government. And in Jacksonville's case, we've consolidated the old city into the new city with several urban service districts. So today, our county is our city and vice versa.
By consolidating governments, hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars were saved by avoiding duplication of services, eliminating inconsistencies, and streamlining governmental processes.
We don't have many of the problems that other cities have, large cities in fact, around this country. When you need something accomplished or you need to resolve a particular problem, then you go to one city council, which is the policy-making legislative body of this city, and one mayor. This is a strong mayor-council form of government that is chiefly responsible for every detail of delivery of services that there is in the community.
Consolidated government is like a community corporation. The citizens are the shareholders. The city council is the board of directors. The mayor, the CEO. As outlined in the city charter, the mayor is responsible for the operation of central government, which provides for basic services, fire protection, sanitation, streets, public housing, recreation, human services, public health, 13 departments in all. When citizens voted for consolidation, they voted to pinpoint responsibility in a strong executive officer. They voted to eliminate duplication of services and to plan for orderly growth. Has this plan been successful?
Yes, I do think consolidation has made a big change. I've heard, too, that when new industries come to Jacksonville, they're pleased with the fact that they can go to one city hall and get all the permitting necessary for them to do business in the county rather than having to go to a city building inspector or county building inspector and duplicate the effort. That is, I think, has meant a lot, and I think new industries have been impressed by the efficiency with which this government operates.
This one-stop shopping is appealing to new residents and new businesses alike. Another unique characteristic of our consolidated government is the creation of authorities. An authority, by definition, is an independent agency set up outside the normal structure of government. By existing outside of traditional government, the agency can be run more like a business. Board members are appointed, not elected, so that day-to-day operations can be handled outside the political arena. Authorities are in place for downtown development, transportation, the port, hospital, and electric utilities. Jacksonville Electric Authority was created from the City Utilities Commission in 1968. As an independent agency, JEA is now the 8th largest municipally owned electric utility in the country. What are some of the advantages of an independent authority? We addressed this question to Royce Lyles, Managing Director of the JEA.
One of the chief arguments for an authority structure to operate the electric utility is that the provision of electricity is a business-type operation and only a quasi-governmental service. You're able to take a more long-term view as an independent agency because most of our projects require a very long lead time. Decisions tend to be made quicker when you're dealing with an authority operation.
As a quasi-governmental structure, JEA, like the other independent authorities, pays no taxes to the city. But unlike the other authorities, JEA makes contributions to the city based on a formula. In 1988, for example, they contributed nearly $34 million to the city of Jacksonville. Although the authorities operate like corporations, they remain under the control of the mayor, the city council, and in some cases, the governor. The mayor appoints all members of the Jacksonville Electric Authority, all members of the Downtown Development Authority. But the mayor splits appointments to the Port Authority and the Transportation Authority with the governor. The reason cited is that the jurisdictions of these authorities extend beyond the city of Jacksonville. The idea of shared appointments is not without controversy.
If there's a positive aspect to the authority system and to the way that they're appointed, then it is that, that they act as a corporation, that they don't owe any particular allegiance to any one political body or party affiliation, even though they themselves as individuals may belong to specific parties. I think that's a positive aspect. Sometimes I feel like you have to put a whip up to some of these individuals because I try to remind, even as a legislator and now as mayor, remind the members, whether they're appointees of the mayor or the governor, that, that they still have the same responsibility and accountability to the public that I do as an elected official.
Other elected officials in the executive branch of government are the sheriff, the supervisor of elections, the property appraiser, and tax collector. Like the mayor, each is elected to 4-year terms of office. The mayor, however, is limited to serving 2 terms. The others are not. The judicial branch of government, of course, is represented by the courts. Jacksonville's court system is not unlike that in other areas. If the mayor and executive branch represent the CEO of our community corporation, the city council is like the board of directors, the lawmaking body that retains legislative power. The city council consists of 19 members, 1 from each of the 14 council districts, and 5 elected at large. Council districts are made up of nearly equal population groups, as determined by the Jacksonville Area Planning Department. Tillie Fowler represents District 14.
Well, I'm surprised that often people don't really understand exactly what the City Council does. And so I've tried to explain to them the important role that the City Council has in the life of every citizen of this city. The City Council is really the legislative body for the City of Jacksonville. And as such, we establish the laws for the City of Jacksonville. We establish the general policies and principles under which the city operates. We review the budgets and appropriate the money for the consolidated government and for all the independent agencies. And then we levy the taxes to pay for those budgets too. So I think it's important that people, do understand the primary functions of their city council.
When citizens of Jacksonville and Duval County voted to consolidate their governments, residents of the Beaches and Baldwin voted for consolidation, but to retain their own forms of government. They are called urban service districts, and in this way maintain a type of double status. While they elect their own mayor, they also pay for and receive some services from the city of Jacksonville. Contrary to the belief that these small communities would see the advantages of consolidation and in time would choose to merge with the city, the Beaches and Baldwin have instead remained autonomous.
I guess one of the problems for consolidation still, as the city grows bigger and bigger, is how do you maintain your ties to the locale? There's a very provocative and well-known article in the political science circles by Robert Dahl, which talks about the difficulty of maintaining democracy in communities of over 250,000 people. Well, if we get to be 1 million or 1.5 million with one city government, how do you still allow people to feel that they are able to be heard and that their city officials are responsive to them. That, I think, will be a great challenge for the future.
Tillie Fowler disagrees.
And I have to disagree, you know, with the larger you get, the more removed. I think you could in other forms of government. But I think under consolidated government and under the way it's set up with the district council system, we really set up to have the individual feel more protected rather than, you know, more isolated. Our local government is really closer to the citizens than any other form of government. You know, every day the citizens of this city come in contact with some form of our government. Every time they drive down a street or turn on a light or put their garbage out or any of the other tasks they do, they encounter a function of their local government. And so it's important that we as elected officials are responsive to those citizens because they see us daily, you know, in the functions of their lives.
It is important to stay in touch with our representatives, but many people feel intimidated about contacting city council members. Will they listen? How accessible are they?
I feel I'm very, very easy to access. Every councilman has their home phone published in the phone book, but I also have an office that has a 24-hour answering service, and I carry a beeper so they can access me here after hours, or they can also call up the City Hall number. And then we have car phones, so I would say that councilman is a very easy person to access today if you'll use one of those methods, and remember that we are their elected official and need to be accessed.
City council members do need to be accessed by individuals as well as by groups. One group that knows their councilman well is the Greater Arlington Civic Council.
The Greater Arlington Civic Council began in 1971, and it was a community-wide turnout mass meeting in response to a proposed additional river crossing at the Matthews Bridge or adjacent to the Matthews Bridge that would have incorporated an expressway through the Arlington, call it suburb at that time. There was a tremendous resident opposition to that. That meeting was held here at Terry Parker. Over 1,000 people, residents turned out, and that plan was subsequently shelved and it never materialized. But from that beginning, four civic associations in the immediate vicinity formed what was the Greater Arlington Civic Council.
The Greater Arlington Civic Council grew from an umbrella group of 4 civic associations in 1971 to nearly 50 today. One of their main interests is zoning.
We used to perhaps review 2, 3, maybe 4 applications a month, and most of them were relatively routine. Through many of the first 10 or 15 years at GACC, that was the normal zoning. Most people were alerted to it or concerned because an apartment complex was going against the back of their subdivision or houses, and the people would be alarmed. Today, we subscribe to the financial news for the legal notices. We review those daily. We call the ones for our district. Like I said, it amounts to almost 15 or 20 a month now. The frequency has really gone up.
Dealing with zoning issues has become one of the major responsibilities of another group, Riverside Avondale Preservation, or RAP.
We started our neighborhood organization completely in the dark. We not only did not realize that other cities around the country were having this same problem, but we really didn't know what the causes of the troubles were, and we quickly found out that zoning, for example, is one of the major troubles we have. And so the first thing we've done is we have a committee in RAP that monitors every new zoning application that comes into the Riverside Avondale area. And if we feel that like it would be an adverse zoning application, if it would bring more commercial intrusion into what was otherwise a residential neighborhood, then we haul out all our troops to oppose it.
RAP, like GACC, has been successful in representing and protecting the interest of their members. Both groups serve as models to other neighborhood organizations, not only in Northeast Florida, but throughout the country. Another organization that has attracted statewide as well as national attention is the Friends of Fort George. Billy Arnold has been coming to Fort George Island since he was 4 years old. He has a special interest in preserving the history and wildlife of the island.
The Friends of Fort George were founded about 7 years ago as a neighborhood association of property owners on and around Fort George Island, and they were very interested They know the history of Fort George, and they're very interested in seeing it preserved. And that small organization began to grow and really became statewide. When the Friends of Fort George heard about a developer coming in to purchase as much property on the island as he wanted to purchase and to place a development the size that he wanted to place on this island, we thought it was necessary for us to get together, and that we did.
The Friends of Fort George have been successful in their attempts to protect their interest, largely through the initial efforts of Billy Arnold. If you look behind an organized movement, you usually find an individual. Just ask John McDonald about the tolls.
The toll situation started when the Jacksonville Transportation Authority raised the tolls all over Jacksonville from 25 cents to 30 cents. However, they raised the toll on the Butler Boulevard from 25 cents to 50 cents, and they eliminated the discount coupon that commuters had heretofore bought. So the increase was over 100%, and I felt that it was really unjustified and unfair and arbitrary. I just got so mad at the JTA and the unfairness of it that I decided to support it as a civic cause.
If it takes an individual to get the ball rolling, it takes some form of organization to keep it rolling.
I surrounded the cause with some civic leaders, and we brainstormed one day and tried to find an approach to getting the JTA to reconsider. So we held public meetings. We had lots of people show up down here at the beach. We did all kinds of things.
All kinds of things included paying tolls with pennies, asking for change for $20 bills, and arranging a temporary boycott of Butler Boulevard. Although John McDonald had some fun with the tolls, protecting public interest and causing positive change is also serious business. Consider the recent school bond issue.
It was one of the most interesting processes I've ever seen once the group was constituted. Don't know the exact number, but there were more than 25 from all parts of the city, all walks of life, all different races, all different religions and creeds. And we had to collectively agree on what was best for the total school population of Jacksonville. There was a lot of give and take. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of unwillingness to trust initially. And over the weeks, you saw the group grow together, grew to understand what a person was saying, and people became more willing to listen to what your needs were over on your side of town, and you please listen to my needs on this side of town. So it was a real good cooperative effort, and I think that it speaks well of the process of involving citizens.
Community members tackling community problems. One organization that came about specifically to identify and help solve community problems is the JCCI.
JCCI, the Jacksonville Community Council, came about 12 years ago to solve a problem in this community, which was that various parts of the community were not talking together about community problems and working together in a consensus-like mode. So JCCI was put into existence to bring citizens into the decision-making process in the community and to bring about positive community changes through citizen involvement.
JCCI is a small nonprofit organization with a small support staff and a big community voice. The real work at JCCI is done by volunteers, nearly 1,000 of them, who identify and select community problems for in-depth study each year. The process begins by asking members through their newsletter and by asking the general public to identify important community problems. The ideas funnel into a program committee. Issues are discussed at length. Eventually, 2 are selected for concentrated study.
And then our members become further involved by signing up for 1 or 2 of those studies. We usually have 40 to 50 people that meet on each study, and they meet once a week for a period of 6 to 9 months. So it's a lot of citizen involvement and a lot of volunteer dedication and commitment to that process.
One of the JCCI's most notable studies in recent years was the visual pollution study. Doug Milne, chair.
What I learned probably was a typical eye-opening kind of experience. That is, Jacksonville does have a severe problem with visual pollution, and it comes in a variety of ways. Probably the most significant or most noticeable is in billboards, but there are others, overhead wiring that proliferates throughout the town, litter, and other kinds of things that significantly detract from the natural beauty of this place.
After the study ended, our JCCI volunteers went on speaking tours all over the city to arouse the consciousness of our citizens, because we found that many people here had lived here for so long, they'd become accustomed to the mess that we had, and they didn't any longer realize that it didn't have to be that way.
Another group of citizens outside of JCCI banded together to amend the city charter to eliminate many of the billboards. This grassroots citizens committee called themselves capsigns. Citizens against a proliferation of signs. They attacked a problem City Council had refused to deal with. And they took the vote to the people.
But when the council didn't do anything, we felt like we had to do something, one, to get their attention, and two, really to go over their heads and let the people vote on it. And that was why we went the charter amendment route and we collected 17,000 signatures. 15,000 of them we collected in one day to put it on the ballot. And then when it was voted on, it passed overwhelmingly.
Creating change seems to require three important ingredients: the individual, the organization, and political support. All three can work independently. Sometimes they work in unison. As John McDonald and others will attest, removal of the tolls would have never occurred without the support of civic groups and of the mayor. But sometimes these three ingredients work against each other. Just ask a former mayor.
In this city, it's growing now, and there's more things that need to be done today. And we can't sit back and say, oh, let the government do it. They'll do it, but they'll screw it up. And I don't say that sarcastic because I was very much a part of that for a long time. But I can speak from that perspective and say to you that the things that we accomplished during my time was many, many things. But I can say to you that none of those things could have been accomplished without a partnership, without partnership of people working together.
People working together. Jacksonville citizens are known for their ability to get together, get behind an issue, and get the job done. They get involved.
One of the reasons for people getting involved is to make sure that the political process stays in the public eye and in the public realm. Going to a meeting or watching a meeting is not enough. I think people have to get involved, and individuals can make a difference.
Individuals can and do make a difference. There are many quiet, unsung heroes in our community. The McLintocks, for example, work quietly within their own community, as well as with the residents of Brooklyn.
I think it's important, too, that often the cultural measure of success in what we're doing needs to be set aside when it comes to community involvement. That there may be times when what you do doesn't appear successful on the surface, and that we don't run front page headlines about what we're doing.
Espie Patrinely didn't run front page headlines, but what she started has affected the lives of thousands of Jacksonville residents. Espie was the driving force behind the preservation of Tree Hill, an urban wilderness, an educational retreat in the midst of busy Arlington. Years of hard work and volunteer hours, too numerous to count, have preserved the peace and natural beauty of Florida of long ago. Espie started it, and the work of dedicated volunteers brought it about. Why volunteer? Why bother to get involved?
It's hard to say no sometimes, but there are moments that you really question the time, the expense, whether people care or not. But there are the moments afterwards, for instance, on a zoning situation, an audacious request one time for an industrial heavy in a neighborhood, for instance. In a 100-year-old neighborhood, these people, the black people of Arlington, some of the original inhabitants, have been encroached and threatened by a business enterprise. And these people's lives were so adversely affected. And when they came to us just out of a last resort, and we helped them and have corrected the situation, turned it around a lot, to have these people come up and hug you and give you, with tears in their eyes and just say, gosh, it means so much to them that people would care.
I also have a strong desire to put back into the community some of the benefits that I received from it. I've lived in Jacksonville for some 35 years, and it's a wonderful place to live, and I want to keep it that way.
My father always used to tell me that every citizen owed a debt to his community, because if everybody turned their backs toward the community, we wouldn't have any community. We wouldn't have hospitals, we wouldn't have churches, we wouldn't have governments or anything of that nature.
It really makes a difference. It really does. And in regards to how young you are, or how old you are, or how new you are in this community, or how long you've been in this community, it really doesn't make any difference. The only thing you need to do is be willing to give of yourself, give of your time, to make Jacksonville a better place for our children to be raised.
Involvement, caring, giving of yourself, whether through public office or private volunteering, it all counts. It all helps. It has made Jacksonville what it is today. It'll determine our future. You can help. The agenda is still unfinished.
Jacksonville, town of my dreams. Hey, you even made me forget New Orleans. Town clear, sunny, down near the Swanee. That's the place for me. Jacksonville, right from the start. You earned a spot so dear to my heart. Town of azaleas, palm trees, and sailors. That's the place to be. I crossed all your bridges, but none did I burn. And to your river, I want to return. And listen to sweet talk down by the river wall. Never more to roam. Back home in Jacksonville, city so fair. There's someone waiting to welcome me there. Soon we'll be standing down on the landing, back in Jacksonville at Fellow High.